first I'll give you one question and then we'll resume with the next topic. Ideology is crucial for social transformation in a democracy. Simple question. Here you have to use your GS knowledge as well if you can. Okay, you can talk about Indian society also. 10 mark question hai. Ideologies. First try to understand the meaning, essence. चलो अब करते हैं शुरू. ऑडिबल है? इस क्वेश्चन को अप्रोच करने के तरीके बहुत हैं. ओके, एंड every individual can write different answer on this question. Since it is 10 mark question, so we cannot explain a lot. Rather than explaining, we should try to show multiple dimensions. Okay, rather than explaining, generally what I suggest to students is, once you have gone through significant part of your syllabus, and then when you start writing answer ना, तो आंसर थोड़े डिफरेंट होते हैं आपके, वो ऑटोमेटिकली नेचुरली ऐसा होता ही है. For 20 mark question, what we should be doing is, we should not giving multiple dimensions for 20 mark question. Limited dimensions but good explanation. But in 10 mark question you should show minimum explanation in multiple dimension. Okay, ये दोनों की अप्रोच में थोड़ा डिफरेंस रहता है. ओके, 20 मार्क क्वेश्चन में हमको ज्यादा डायमेंशंस नहीं करने चाहिए. रीजन क्या होता है? इन 20 मार्क क्वेश्चन मोस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस आर वेरी स्पेसिफिक. ओके, दे विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट टू वेरिएबल्स मेनली. व्हाट इज वेरिएबल इज समथिंग व्हिच आई विल टेल यू लेटर ऑन. ओके, लेट अस, चलो इसी की बात अभी फिलहाल कर लेते हैं. आइडियोलॉजी इज क्रूशियल. सो हियर द कीवर्ड्स आर, वन आइडियोलॉजी, सेकंड कीवर्ड इज social transformation, and third is in a democracy. Okay, since you have not, most of you have not read post independence history in your GS, so what I will do is I will give you a little bit glimpse of it, okay, through this question. What we have to explain basically is that the idea is that any system initially is relatively closed. Okay, system, any society basically, not system, any society initially, okay, is closed relatively, not so democratic, not so inclusive, not so participative, not so representative. That is why closed. But gradually, when you have ideology coming in, then this relatively closed society becomes open. Okay, so it is now open. Okay, inclusive, relatively more inclusive, more inclusive than earlier society. Then this model that we have of society is again subjected to another ideology. And this society again becomes more open. Okay. And relatively more democratic. Understood yahan tak? Theoretical part. Okay. And what is this? This is nothing but social transformation only. ये social transformation हो रहा है. Initially, society is closed, then ideology comes in, because of which now there is a reaction between, think like this, like a chemistry student. There is a reaction between ideology and closed society, and the reaction leads to relatively open society plus some byproducts also, which could be of fundamentalist nature. Byproducts. This relatively open society is again subjected to another ideology. Again, it becomes more open. So what I'm trying to show you through this diagram is nothing but this social transformation. Now what do we have to do? This is our model. This is our model. What we have to do now? We have to put in some facts in this model. But the flow of the answer should be like this. Okay. Now, let us try to fill some gaps. Take any society. Okay, we can't talk about all the societies in the world, especially when it is 10-mark question. Time bhi zyada nahi hota hai. So let us talk about, which society do you want me to talk about? Indian, European? क्योंकि क्वेश्चन में सिर्फ डेमोक्रेसी लिखा है. In question there is nothing explicitly mentioned Indian or European. Indian, ठीक है. So let us start with India. By India became democratic. India became democratic when we had our own constitution, when we attained sovereignty. Then we became democratic. Okay, constitutionally, legally. So that means pre-independent India, pre-independence India was relatively closed. Relatively closed. And then we had ideology. Now, what is the name of ideology? The name of ideology is liberty, equality, fraternity, social justice, economic justice, political justice. सही बात है कि नहीं है? तो आइडियोलॉजी के नाम भर दो पूरा पेज. ठीक है. लिबर्टी, इक्वालिटी, फ्रेटर्निटी, जस्टिस को भी ब्रेक करके और तोड़ दो उसको. सोशल, इकोनॉमिक, पॉलिटिकल, जैसे जीएस में लिखते हैं. ठीक है. जीएस में यही तो करते हैं. पॉलिटिकल डायमेंशन, इकोनॉमिक डायमेंशन, सोशल डायमेंशन, एनवायरमेंटल डायमेंशन, ऐसे कर. ये है जीएस हमारा. ठीक है. तो वो सब यहां डाल दो. अब ये इससे हुआ क्या? What happened? And also we should remember that this ideology is external, coming from West. We have borrowed from West. This was not indigenous. The idea of liberty, equality, fraternity that was enshrined in preamble. Okay. And the ideas of which were expanded in constitution were not indigenous to India. They were borrowed. So it was nothing but, what should I say? Basically, if you have revised Talcott-Parsons, okay, Talcott-Parsons tell us that any system is subjected to external change. ये बोला था कि नहीं टैलकेट पार्सन ने, जिसकी वजह से क्राइसिस आता है, and then structural adjustment takes place. ठीक है, और टैलकेट पार्सन को मैं क्यों लेके आ रहा हूं, क्योंकि वो पहला सोशियोलॉजिस्ट है हमारे सिलेबस में जो कि एक डेमोक्रेटिक सोसाइटी में पैदा हुआ और डेमोक्रेसी के ऊपर लिखा, अमेरिका। ठीक है, और ये जो मैंने यहाँ पे दिखाया यहां से यहां, ये कुछ भी नहीं है, मूविंग इक्विलिब्रियम है, सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, ये मूविंग इक्विलिब्रियम दिखाया मैंने। ठीक है, यस। सो what we can write here, okay, just to give you one example, here we will write exogenic change. exogenic means बाहर से चेंज आया है, ये हमारा इंटरनल चेंज नहीं था ये वाला। okay, although the very idea, you know, the very idea of nationalist movement is also exogenic, because the ideas that we used, ये मैं थोड़ा बता रहा हूं तुम्हें जीएस को सोशियोलॉजी के साथ लिंक करके, the ideas that were used by nationalist leaders were Western, and therefore it is often said in history also that the same tool that was British in nature was used by Indians to hammer on the heads of British. उसी हथियार से, उसी हथौड़े से, उसी कुल्हाड़ी से उन्हीं के सर पे मार दिया, और वो हथियार क्या था? डेमोक्रेसी, वो वही उनके सर पे मार दिया। तो नेशनलिस्ट मूवमेंट्स भी एक्सटर्नल आइडियोलॉजी से ड्रिवन थी। इनफैक्ट द वेरी आइडिया ऑफ रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म्स दैट वी हैड इन इंडिया वाज आल्सो द रिजल्ट ऑफ एक्सटर्नल आइडियोलॉजीज, exogenic changes. All those people were educated in Western university, had Western modern exposure to Western modern education. Okay. Now, what happened with the idea of liberty, equality, fraternity, justice? Society got more open. That means now anyone, irrespective of his caste, irrespective of his class, irrespective of his gender, can become whatever he or she wants to become. That means what? The ideology of meritocracy. Meritocracy. क्या बात, ठीक है, मेरिटोक्रेसी इज ऑल्सो आइडियोलॉजी। ये आ गया, अब हमारा सिस्टम ओपन हो गया, बट हमने एक चीज नोटिस करी कि ऑल्दो सिस्टम इज नाउ ओपन, बट इट वाज, as you know, as you have read C. Wright Mills also, C. Wright Mills says democracy in America is external appearance. Within the democracy we have our elite. Okay, and therefore society may look very open, but it is closed at the topmost strata. बताया था कि नहीं बताया था? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि इंडिया खुल तो गया, बट वो खुला था नीचे के लेवल पर, ऊपर के लेवल पे वो क्लोज ही था, इसलिए कांग्रेस ही चलती गई, कई सालों तक कांग्रेस ही कांग्रेस का रूल रहा। ठीक है, और वो कब तक था कांग्रेस का रूल? आप मान के चलो मिड 70s तक। ओके, mid 70s. That means although society was now open, democratic, based on merit, and the rulers were now elected by the people through election that was also based on merit. Why election is based on merit? How election is based on merit? Tell me. Common sense. How election is based on merit? हाँ, कि जिसके नंबर हैं ज्यादा वही आएगा, ये मेरिट ही तो है। ठीक है, यही एजुकेशन में होता है, जिसके नंबर ज्यादा है वही टॉप पे जाएगा। और नंबर ज्यादा हमेशा से कांग्रेस के ही थे, मिड 70s तक कांग्रेस का रूल था। तो देयरफॉर एट द सरफेस इट लुक डेमोक्रेसी, बट एट द टॉप मोस्ट स्ट्रक्चर इट वाज क्लोज सिस्टम। यानी कि वहां पे अभी अटैक करना बाकी था, नीचे से तो हमने फ्री कर दिया। ओके, वो भी आइडियोलॉजिकली बोल रहा हूँ, नीचे से भी फ्री नहीं है, ये तो बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है, बट मैं बहुत, क्योंकि 10 मार्क का ही क्वेश्चन है और कंपटीशन एग्जाम के लिए, तो इसलिए मैं सारी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी को साफ करके नीट पिक्चर प्रेजेंट करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं, जो कि है नहीं। ये हो गया, ये चल रहा था 70s तक। तो दिस वाज ओपन एंड दिस वाज क्लोज्ड, हमने ये अचीव कर लिया। एंड हियर इट वाज कंप्लीटली क्लोज्ड। Indian representation, you would not see Indians being represented when we were governed by British. Few elite Rajas, the Maharajas, the son of Maharajas, they were given some representation, that too in state legislative assemblies, one or two. Okay, जो रजवाड़ा का, जो princely states का जो concept था तब की बात. Okay, so this was absolutely closed, in the sense relatively closed, I would say, not absolutely closed, relatively closed. And this system, which was now relatively open, but only the topmost was closed, since Congress party was there for a very long time, this system also got subjected to another ideology, and the name of ideology is regionalism. क्या बात है, रीजनलिज्म, ये पढ़ा है कि नहीं पढ़ा है? नहीं पढ़ा है तो वो फिर शायद नहीं पढ़ा होगा, क्योंकि जीएस जहां भी पढ़ा है वहां अभी शायद शुरू ना किया हो, ये भी हो सकता है। रीजनलिज्म क्या होता है? व्हाट इज रीजनलिज्म? आवर इंडियन पॉलिटिकल स्ट्रक्चर gained regional representation at the national level. Yes, multi-party system, what we call as multi-party. For a very long time, India was dominated by, as I told you yesterday also, Rajni Kothari. This was one-party dominance that was going on for a very long time. Gradually, when regional leaders in different states gained prominence, Reddis, Jats, Chaudharis, Gujars, ये लोग थोड़ा आने लग गए ऊपर ऊपर। तब हुआ क्या? आखिर में एक पॉइंट आया जब कांग्रेस को डिफीट फेस करनी पड़ी। सिंपल लैंग्वेज में अगर बताऊं, सारी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी हटा के, द नेशनल लेवल पॉलिटिक्स वाज नॉट anymore now run by one party, now it was multiple parties, the coalition of which actually established the political regime from there onwards. Regional parties. Okay. In fact, if you have read about Mandal Commission, 1979, it got established in 1979. Mandal Commission talked about backward classes, okay, based on caste and other criteria like education, okay, socially, educationally backward, socially and educationally backward. So this Mandal Commission recommendation were not accepted for a long time, okay. VP Singh government was there in 78. VP Singh government, wanted to ensure one thing, कि हमें जिंदगी में फिर कभी ये मौका शायद ना मिले इंडिया को रूल करने का, तो जाते जाते कुछ ऐसा करके जाओ लोग हमें जिंदगी भर याद रखें। ये हर एक पॉलिटिशियन का सपना रहता है, क्योंकि वो 5 साल के लिए होता है, उसे मालूम है उसको 5 साल का ही स्टेटस मिलेगा, 5 साल का, फिर उसको कोई पूछेगा भी नहीं, तो इसलिए वो 5 साल में ही सब कुछ करता है। तो वीपी सिंह डिसाइडेड कि भाई वी विल बी नाउ एस्टेब्लिशिंग मंडल कमीशन that will talk about representation to the backward classes which have not yet gained recognition or representation. Why? Because Congress was, although India's first party, but it was not democratic. It was presided over by and chaired by people from upper caste. In the Congress, most of the people, 90% were upper caste, Brahmin men. This is not democracy. And then when VP Singh came, he established Mandal Commission, started talking about representation of the backward class, and then OBC Commission got established. Mandal Commission gave recommendation, and in that recommendation he talked about 9 criteria, 7 or 8, 9 criteria, according to which we can give the status of OBC or other backward classes, not caste. Okay, it was called as classes. इसके पीछे भी sociology है, मैं आगे बताऊंगा. तो अदर बैकवर्ड क्लासेस का कॉन्सेप्ट आया. बट until 1992 the OBC recommendation was not instrumentalized. Only in 1992, with the affirmation given by Supreme Court, the OBC reservation came into existence. But although OBC as a reservation came in 92 onwards, but the concept of regional parties and regionalism had already gained prominence by the end of mid-70s. जब इंदिरा गांधी डिक्टेटर बन गई थी, when Indira Gandhi had become complete dictator, it invited multiple types of social movements. One of them was Jai Prakash Narayan Total Revolution, it is called as, if you have read anything like that. Have you read in GS Total Revolution, Jai Prakash Narayan Total Revolution? हाँ, संपूर्ण क्रांति. ठीक है. So after that, what we saw at the political structure was nothing but multi-party structures. Regional leaders gained prominence. और फिर वहां से कांग्रेस थोड़ी ओपन होनी शुरू हुई. Coalition system established हुआ. Now it was no longer one party dominance. Now it was the era of coalition politics. Okay. And coalition politics means ideologies of multiple kinds and different degrees uniting together. Ideologies of different kinds and different degrees uniting together to form a party, ruling party. So now the alliance is nothing but alliances or alliance of ideologies. One ideology was that of backward class representation, including Dalits, okay, STs. So therefore, this closed system now got subjected to another ideology, regionalism, and then this system again became relatively more open. And although the first wave of democracy in India was exogenic, but later on all the waves that were coming in were orthogenetic. Within the Indian soil, movements had started. Okay. By the people who did not necessarily have Western education. Okay. So now system had become more democratic. And instead of this Congress system, one party dominance, now we had multi-party system, coalition of ideologies. Because I have to write in context of ideology, तो मैं जबरदस्ती ये लिख रहा हूँ coalition of ideology, जो कि सही भी है और एड्रेस भी कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. Now what happened? This was all about politics. Okay. Other than politics, if you know, there was economic changes also that was in 1990s. And what was that? ये तो पढ़ा होगा जीएस में कम से कम. हाँ, LPG. Liberalization, privatization, globalization. Why this is democratic? You tell me now. How come it made the system more open? And LPG was orthogenetic or exogenic? Exo, yes. So first we had exo, then ortho, again exo from 90 onwards. Yes, लाइसेंस राज को खत्म किया हमने. सही बात है. FDIs की बात हुई. That means the ideology of liberalism or the ideology of neoliberalism, जो कि अब चल रहा है. Liberalism. What is liberalism? स्टेट को कोई काम नहीं करना चाहिए, अपना चुपचाप बैठे रहे. जो मार्केट का काम है वो इकोनॉमी देखेगी. स्टेट शुड नॉट बी इंटरवीनिंग इन द इकोनॉमिक सेक्टर. दिस इज व्हाट लिबरलिज्म इज, laissez-faire system. And that is why you saw multiple kind of banks coming in, no more regulated by state only, because for a very long time we had nationalization of banks. That means state had intervened in the economic sector, but that was no longer nationalization. Now the wave of FDI or global banks or multinational banks, now they had started coming in. In fact, the very idea of exchange rate in RBI, that also got changed. We had no longer fixed exchange rate. We now had floating regime. Floating regime. That means market के हिसाब से हम करेंगे. स्टेट अपने हिसाब से नहीं चलेगा कि मार्केट में इंटरवीन कर दिया और करेंसी का वैल्यू घटा रहा है बढ़ा रहा है. ये मार्केट प्रिंसिपल्स डिसाइड करेंगे डिमांड सप्लाई का. ये पढ़ा है कि नहीं पढ़ा है? ठीक. So we had liberalization, we had privatization. Privatization means completely against the nationalization. That is why privatization. Again, new ideology coming in. Okay, globalization. That means from closed economy, इधर भी आ जाएगा. We had now become open economy. ठीक है. हालांकि ये बात फैक्ट है कि हमारी इकोनॉमी कभी एब्सोल्युटली क्लोज नहीं होती है, ना ही इसके बाद कोई एब्सोल्युटली ओपन हो गई. बट ये सिर्फ मॉडल्स यूज करते हैं, इकोनॉमिस्ट भी करते हैं इसको यूज, ऐसे मॉडल्स को. क्योंकि हम ग्लोबलाइजेशन पहले बीच में भी हुआ था 70s के दौरान. ठीक है, उस टाइम भी चेंजेस आए थे, लेकिन जो मेजर डिग्री ऑफ चेंज जिसे कहते हैं ग्लोबलाइजेशन का, वो इस टाइम था. सो नाउ इनिशियली वी हैड ओपन पॉलिटिकल स्ट्रक्चर, नाउ वी हैड ओपन इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर एज वेल. Okay, and not just that, with globalization came multiple kind of ideas. Again, another set of ideologies came in along with globalization, that is feminism, democratic decentralization, devolution. These were the ideas that had started coming in. The very idea of Panchayati Raj institution was nothing but democratization of democracy. That now democracy, which was highly centralized, had now become decentralized. So power structures now had gotten open relatively to the local level as well, and that is why we had local self-government constitutionally being recognized. ये पढ़ा है कि नहीं पढ़ा है? Separation of power. ठीक है. So now I'll talk about the ideas that we got through globalization. हमें फिर लास्ट में दिखेगा कि इंडियन सोसाइटी कितनी अब ओपन हो गई है, कहां पहले थी और हम कहां आ गए हैं, और वो सब आइडियोलॉजीज की वजह से ही सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन हुआ है. एंड सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का मतलब सिर्फ सोशल नहीं होता है, सोशल का मतलब सब होता है. पॉलिटिकल, इकोनॉमिक, सब. ओके, एवरीथिंग इज सोशल, एवरीथिंग इज पार्ट ऑफ सोसाइटी. इकोनॉमी सिर्फ एक छोटा सा ऑर्गन है सोसाइटी का. With globalization, what are the ideas that we got? First, we got liberalism. Second, we got feminism. Feminist waves started in India 90 onwards. Okay. And decentralization. Decentralization. All the three are ideologies. Nationalism. नेशनलिज्म नहीं है, कॉस्मोपॉलिटिनिज्म बोलो. नेशनलिज्म तो आ गया था ना. ऐसे तो नेशनलिज्म अभी भी नहीं है अगर बोला जाए तो. नेशनलिज्म किस सेंस में कह रहे हो शुभांगी? डेमोक्रेटिक डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन, 73rd 74th amendment. पंचायती राज इंस्टीट्यूशन at local, the municipality level and rural. Okay. Liberalism. That means now we had global MNCs coming in different sectors. Okay. The very idea of food industry and multi-brand retail, all these ideas have started coming in, which actually changed the lifestyle of people. Lifestyle of the people. These are those things which change the lifestyle of people. And again brought in a new form of concept in the structure of Indian society. That was formation of middle classes. Because it was nothing, it was propelling another ideology, that was consumerism. Lifestyle means consumerism. Another ideology. And consumerism propelled middle class. And therefore, the strata of middle class expanded in India like anything. Not to say that we did not have middle class before 90s, we had definitely, but that was, in the sociological parlance, was characterized as old middle class, and 90 onwards we had now new middle class. ओके, जिसके बाद मैं अभी नहीं करूंगा, ये मैं पेपर 2 में बताऊंगा. अभी नहीं, अभी मैं सिर्फ तुम्हें बता रहा हूं कि कैसे अप्रोच, क्योंकि अभी तुम्हें जीएस का नहीं ज्यादा वो आइडिया है, इसलिए मैं तुम्हें ऐसे करके बता रहा हूं. ठीक है. और एक बैलेंस प्रॉपर बना रहे जीएस सोशो का, दोनों का. ज्यादा जीएस भी नहीं होना चाहिए. मैंने जो भी लिखा जीएस की इंफॉर्मेशन मैंने बहुत मिनिमलिस्ट यूज करी है, मैक्सिमम सोशियोलॉजी ही किया है मैंने. जीएस को मैंने सिर्फ फैक्ट्स के फॉर्म में यूज किया अपनी बात को प्रूव करने के लिए, और उससे ज्यादा जीएस मेरे लिए रेलेवेंट नहीं है. ठीक है. फेमिनिज्म, you know, the very idea of different kinds of civil societies. For example, if you have read about Ila Bhatt Seva, self-employed women's association, self-employed women's organization, or the idea of self-help group, SHGs, okay, or the idea of women-led cooperatives or women movement, fighting for women rights, gender rights, or the idea of Chipko movement. Okay, environmentalism basically, ecofeminism. So we had different sorts of feminism. Ecofeminism. Okay. लिबरल फेमिनिज्म, ये सब मैं अभी ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं बताना चाहता हूँ क्योंकि अभी तुम्हें जीएस का नहीं वो पढ़ा है अभी ज्यादा तुमने, ठीक है. बट व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू टेल यू इज दैट मेजर वेव्स ऑफ फेमिनिज्म हैड started coming in India after 90s. Okay. And other than these things, when it comes to decentralization, other than these things, the another ideology that had come in with the wave of external changes was also that of a consciousness, a political consciousness, a global political consciousness, which actually materialized in the form of civil society like RTI, transparency, accountability. These are also ideologies which had started coming in with the enactment of RTI 2005 onwards. And then individualism had also come in. When people are fighting for rights, you know, the kind of waves that had come in after 90s that were not there. You know, people fighting for their rights, thing like this, right to work, right to education. These are not the things that people were fighting for initially. Right to education, right to information, right to work, right to good health, right to clean environment, right to sanitation. These are not the things that people were fighting for initially, but this happened only with the more and more exposure they got to Western ideas in education after 90s. Okay, so cosmopolitanism. That means lifestyle change, and individualism. RTI, which was another ideology, transparency, accountability. Or good governance. RTI is also part of good governance, and good governance is also another ideology. Right to education. So now I hope you got the idea what I'm trying to talk about, how ideologies can bring about social transformations in democracy. समझ गए हो ना? ठीक है, चलो. अब तभी मैंने इसलिए बोला कि यार हिस्ट्री थोड़ा पढ़ो, पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस हिस्ट्री को पढ़ो, क्योंकि मैं तो उसको बहुत यूज करूंगा पेपर 2 में. व्हेन वी विल गिव यू 10 days हॉलीडे, उसमें आप पढ़ो पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस हिस्ट्री को. Sir, please explain what is cosmopolitanism. Cosmopolitanism means global citizen. See, for example, I am and you are politically Indian citizen. Politically, we are Indian citizen. But consciously, if we think like this, that at all other level, when being Indian, I am expressing solidarity for even the blacks in America. That shows that I am cosmopolitan. Sitting in India and sitting in America, if you're expressing concern for something that is happening in other country, because you think that you are not bound by nationalities, you are a human first and then nationalist later on. When you think like this, then you are cosmopolitan, global citizen. Yes, when we are having holidays after this paper one, within 10 days. Okay. Let us now start with social stratification. Have you guys got notes on religion? ठीक है, चलो, ठीक है. Now remember, social certification is also quite relevant and important. But we would now be highly exam oriented. Highly exam oriented from now onwards. Okay. Because you now know the spirit very well. The idea you have of politics, religion, broad idea you guys have. Okay. And all those ideas I'm going to use in certification. Okay. Certification is like revision of everything that you have read. Now the question is, what is certification? You know, when as a student of geography, we study stratas of earth. Okay, different soils, different kinds of soils in earth. We study it, classification of soils. Okay. So we talk about inner core, outer core. That is stratas within the earth of soil. Okay. Of minerals. In what depth you are going to find which mineral. That is the certification. The thing is that stratification has been there in society since forever. That means layers. You would find people divided in layers. It is not just about layer. You know, I see certification everywhere around me, every day, every second. There is one place in Delhi, Chanakyapuri. There is one place in Delhi, Chanakyapuri. Okay. Chanakyapuri is, you know, embassy area. Embassy area. Fully embassy area. And other than embassy area, you have some fine dine restaurants also there. Okay. So it's very calm, very sophisticated kind of ambience is there when you go to Chanakyapuri in Delhi. Okay. Slums are also there. Slums, पता नहीं, मैंने नहीं देखे slums. मुझे तो नहीं दिखे. होंगे शायद कहीं कोने में होंगे, वहां नहीं गया मैं. जो कोर एरिया है वहीं तक रहा मैं. ठीक है. So when I, you know, as a normal citizen, when I go to Chanakyapuri and when I see different embassies like American embassy, Canadian embassy, Chinese embassy, Turkish embassy, Palestinian embassy, Israel's embassy, okay, and some restaurants in between, which are very sophisticated, elite ones, fine dine type, okay. And then when I come to old Rajendra Nagar, and then when I see ये ग्रोवर मिठाई वाला अंकल, ये मोमोज वाले, दिमाग खराब हो जाता है. और इसी ने सिर्फ दिमाग नहीं, इसी ने पूरी हेल्थ भी खराब करी है मेरी ओल्ड राजेंद्र नगर में, ये सब खा खा के. इसलिए अब थोड़ा लाइफ में फूड बिहेवियर में चेंज लाना है. थोड़ा बहुत हो गया है जिंदगी में, थोड़ा वापस फिट होना है. खैर, so what I'm trying to tell you is that when you go to Chanakyapuri, when you see such kind of places, such kind of people, such kind of ambience, you somehow feel there is inequality in society. यार ये सब हमारे पास क्यों नहीं है? Why don't we have such grand bungalows? Why can't we have this lifestyle? You know, ऐसा लगता है. But I cannot I cannot be angry on someone for this. Because if I ask someone, how come this man is having this bada bungalow and bungalow at such a nice location, posh location, Chanakyapuri, and many other people do not have these kind of facilities or resources? So the other person will tell me, it is all based on merit. Why this man had merit? This man had merit. That is why he opened this restaurant, the premium restaurant he opened. That is why. Okay, merit means wealth. Wealth accumulated through merit. Okay. This man uh, is there in this embassy because he has merit. He had cleared American Foreign Service exam, if there is any. Okay. Consulate. When you see stratas everywhere, you see inequality. That is why I told you that everywhere you see stratas. Some strata, some are highly posh people, highly elite people, some are highly oppressed. ठीक है, 20 रुपए भी मांगेंगे फोन करके कि यार पेटीएम कर दे, ऐसे भी लोग हैं. So our society is divided into different kind of sects, different kind of groups. Some are there, even when it comes to education, again there is one strata. There is a strata like people who can pay lakhs and lakhs in coaching. That is another strata within students. Then there is another strata which cannot pay anything because they are coming from very poor families. They cannot afford to pay anything to coaching. So they would rely mainly on क्या कहते हैं, टेलीग्राम. अच्छा, टेलीग्राम. Telegram has done one more. Although, before coming to Telegram, let me also discuss some other things. And within those who can afford to pay in coaching, then there are some other people who can, other than paying for coaching, can also pay for library. And that too, elite library, जिसका महीने का कुछ होएगा 5 या 10,000 रेंट, उसका भी अलग होएगा. ठीक है. They can also stay in accommodation that is their own. 3 BHK ले लेंगे, भले अकेले हैं, पर टीवी लगा के रहेंगे पूरा वैसे. So you see stratas everywhere. A strata can be hierarchical as well, just like we have stratas in geography. When we read in geography, different layers of earth which are hierarchical. Hierarchical in the sense, one is at the topmost and the last layer you find at the bottom. Telegram से मुझे याद आया, in the last 10 days, we had been successful in banning 15 to 20 Telegram channels. So we have this group which keeps a close watch on copyright infringement. तो हमने 10-15 चैनल अभी एक हफ्ते के अंदर ही ब्लॉक कराए हैं, 10-15 कम से कम. प्रॉब्लम पता है क्या है इंडिया का? In India, there is no, although we have laws related to copyright, digital copyright protection laws we have, but consciousness नहीं है हमारी. Collective consciousness do not pay respect to copyright in India. हमें अभी भी वही देखनी है, वो पायरेटेड मूवीज हो जो किसी ने थिएटर में जाके रिकॉर्ड कर ली होती है अपने 5 मेगापिक्सल कैमरा से, उसको हम टेलीग्राम पे देख लेंगे 2 GB उस पर डालकर 10 रुपए का रिचार्ज करके. ठीक है. लेकिन एक जो कॉन्शियसनेस होती है कि यार कॉपीराइट जो होते हैं वो कभी भी इन्फ्रिंज नहीं होने चाहिए, वो आई नहीं है इंडिया में. ठीक है. हाँ, तमिल रॉकर्स, ये भी एक है. तो टेलीग्राम पे हमने अभी चैनल्स बैन कराए हैं 10-15। आपकी नजर में कोई भी चैनल आता है, इफ यू कम अक्रॉस एनी चैनल ऑन टेलीग्राम which is violating any sort of digital rights, I personally got 3 channels banned in a span of 4 days. पर्सनली मैंने करवा दिया, ठीक है। क्यों और किसके? उन सारे चैनल्स के जहां पे भी हिंदू हिंदू न्यूज़पेपर का पीडीएफ सर्कुलेट हो रहा था, वो सारे चैनल बैंड। क्यों भाई? आई एम मेंबर ऑफ सिविल सोसाइटी, I am member of civil society. If I see copyright violation before my eyes, मैं करवा दूंगा। ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं सिर्फ अपने ही वीडियोस को जहां लीक हुए उनको रुकवाऊंगा। जहां हिंदू या इंडियन एक्सप्रेस का भी पीडीएफ सर्कुलेट हो रहा है उधर भी, I myself have never uploaded any PDF of Hindu or Indian Express on any of my channel. मैं जब भी करूंगा अपलोड, हमेशा उस पर मेरा कुछ क्रिएटिव वर्क रहेगा। ऐसे अपलोड करके फेंक दिया मुंह पे स्टूडेंट्स के, से क्या होती है? तो जैसे वो रिक्शे वाले होते हैं, वो जो क्या कहते हैं, वो जो अखबार बांटने वाले होते हैं राजेंद्र नगर में, वैसे फेंकते नहीं है, यहाँ नीचे से खड़े होकर बालकनी में फेंकते हैं, ठीक है। वो फेंकना अलाउड होएगा क्योंकि दैट पर्सन हैज पेड फॉर दैट फेंकना, एंड दिस पर्सन इज ऑल्सो गेटिंग पेमेंट फॉर फेंकना, बट clearly violating digital rights on Telegram. Telegram has become new avatar of this torrent. इसको तो सख्त से सख्त, ऐसे आप जब आप एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर बनने जा रहे हो, आपका ये वो है, एक ड्रीम है, आप अपनी आंखों के सामने अगर देख रहे हो कॉपीराइट लॉ को वायलेट होते हुए और आप कुछ नहीं कर रहे हो ना, तो आप बहुत गलत हो, ठीक है। आपको खुद से एक्शन लेना चाहिए, खुद से। ये आपकी ड्यूटी है कि जब राइट्स को वायलेट होते हुए, हमेशा हम अपने राइट्स के लिए लड़ते हैं, ठीक है। थोड़ा हमें लार्जर कंसर्न भी देखना चाहिए। कम से कम मुझे, आई नो देयर आर मेनी अदर चैनल्स वेयर स्टिल हिंदू एंड इंडियन एक्सप्रेस एंड द कॉपीज ऑफ और द डिजिटल कॉपीज ऑफ दोस पेपर्स आर सर्कुलेटेड, बट एवरी डे I report those things personally at my personal capacity, okay, not with the help of some association. एक एसोसिएशन भी यहाँ चल रही है आजकल उस चीज के लिए, लेकिन मैं अपने पर्सनल कैपेसिटी पे रिपोर्ट करता हूँ हिंदू और इंडियन एक्सप्रेस को और ईपीडब्ल्यू को भी, ओके, कि आप इनको बैन करो। वो बैन हुए पिछले 10 दिन में, काफी सारे बैन भी हो गए, और अच्छा लगा मुझे कि क्योंकि उनका भी अपने कंसर्न है यार। एनीहाउ, लेट मी टेक थोड़ा ब्रेक, पहले मैं ब्रेक के बाद फिर बात करता हूँ आगे, देन वी विल कंटिन्यू सोशल सर्टिफिकेशन। And I'm really very honest with you, if you see any copyright violation before your eyes, report this to us. हमें रिपोर्ट करो, लेवल अप को रिपोर्ट करो या मुझे रिपोर्ट करो, अगले दिन बैन होएगा, अगले ही दिन, ठीक है। आई एम नॉट कंसर्न विद सर्कुलेशन ऑफ सम अदर फैकल्टीज वीडियोस, उससे मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता, ठीक है, उससे नहीं फर्क पड़ता उससे नहीं फर्क पड़ता। फर्क पड़ता है जब हिंदू का या इंडियन एक्सप्रेस का या मेरा मटेरियल या मेरी वीडियोस, अपने से अलावा मेरे को हिंदू और इंडियन एक्सप्रेस का है ज्यादा। हालांकि I know other than few teachers, there are some other teachers as well जिनकी वीडियो सर्कुलेट हुई हैं, एंड उन लोगों ने भी बैन करवाए हैं, काफी चैनल बैन उन्होंने करवाए हैं अपने लेवल पर, अपनी कैपेसिटी में उन्होंने काफी चैनल्स बैन करवाए हैं, ओके। बट टेलीग्राम आपको पता है कैसे चलता है, आपने एक चैनल बनाया, आप उस चैनल के साथ ही एक बैकअप चैनल बना लेते हो कि भाई कल को मेरा ये चैनल ब्लॉक हो रहा होगा तो यहाँ आ जाना सारे के सारे, यहाँ सब मिल जाएगा तुम्हें। उस चैनल को फिर ब्लॉक कराओ, वो कहीं और फिर खुल जाएगा, तो ये हाइड एंड सीक चलता रहता है। तो बट एक टाइम आता है जब आपके टेलीग्राम चैनल के मेंबर्स 1 लाख हो जाएं और एक झटका लगे एक ही रात में आपको अगले दिन कि वो बैन हो गया है, और फिर आप 500 पे आ जाओ या 100 पे, फिर पता चलता है कि यानी वो 1 लाख कभी थे ही नहीं। इन्फ्लेटेड फिगर्स अलग होते हैं, एक तो टेलीग्राम चैनल्स में इन्फ्लेटेड फिगर्स चलते हैं। इसकी भी टेक्नोलॉजी है, इसको भी वो करते हैं लोग। टेलीग्राम चैनल्स के नंबर ही बढ़ा दो। आपके पास यूजर है 100 और आप दिखा रहे हो 1 लाख। लगी लगी दुनिया टेलीग्राम की। तो हमें लगा बहुत हुआ यार, अब इसका काम खत्म करना ही पड़ेगा। अब इसका टेलीग्राम का करवा दिए बैन हमने। इसलिए हमारी नजर में अगर आप लोग लाओगे ना, ऑनेस्टली हम आपको अवार्ड देंगे, रिवॉर्ड्स देंगे दुनिया भर के, जो हम अभी आपको बता नहीं सकते हैं, क्योंकि कॉपीराइट को प्रोटेक्ट करने में कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत, क्या कहते हैं, बड़ा माना जाता है। ठीक है, ओके, सो लेट मी हैव वन ब्रेक, देन आई विल कंटिन्यू। चलो शुरू करते हैं। सो सोशल सर्टिफिकेशन। सर अपना भी व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बना लेते हैं। हम कॉपीराइट कुछ कर नहीं रहे हैं, जब तक हम कुछ कॉपीराइट वायलेट नहीं करें, दैट इज ओके। टेलीग्राम ग्रुप, सी what are the things that fall under copyright infringement, we should know, we should also know this, okay, little bit, थोड़ा सा आज आप पढ़ना, all of you should know about digital rights also, ठीक है, आज थोड़ा सा पढ़ना। You can share one article, 1, 2, 3 article from a daily newspaper in any channel for any educational purpose. As long as you are sharing 1 or 2 articles for educational purpose, that is not copyright infringement. When you share the whole digital copy, that falls under copyright infringement. Okay. Let us discuss social certification. So what I told you is like this, something like this. This is strata. If I say that in our society we have people like below poverty line, above poverty line, and this is poverty line, let us assume, okay, below poverty line, above poverty line, then we have lower class, okay, middle class, which is not so simple classification by the way, हाँ, ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है. These are what? Models. These are what? Ideal types. तुम्हें ये हमेशा याद रहेगा, से जब तुम कुछ भी पढ़ोगे तुम्हें याद रहेगा मैक्स वेबर हमेशा जिंदा रहेगा. ये सिर्फ कैटेगरीज हैं, ऐसा होता नहीं है रियल वर्ल्ड में. ओके, क्योंकि हम किस क्राइटेरिया से किसी को मिडिल क्लास बोल रहे हैं, वो क्राइटेरिया भी वेरी करता है. ओके, एनी हाउ, बट लेट अस टॉक अबाउट अ मॉडल. लोअर क्लास, मिडिल क्लास, अपर क्लास, and then we have elites over and above upper class. What is this? This is strata. Strata. Okay, strata based on class position. Okay, you can have multiple billionaires. You can have multiple billionaires, okay, in upper class. But then you also have, within billionaire, you have a super bourgeois group which makes it to the list of global richest people. If in India we have multiple people who are billionaires, but then we have very few people who are part of Forbes list. That is elite. Forbes. Okay. And that is a strata based on class position. And this strata is open or closed? Open or closed? This strata is generally regarded as, generally I am using the word generally it is regarded as open. Why open? Because it is based on class position, and class is very open category. भाई सीधी सी बात है, if you are a son of auto rickshaw driver, if you are capable and talented, if you write the exam and if you become IAS, then you go into an upper position. You go into an upper position. एक glass भी देना. You go into an upper position. That shows class is open. Class therefore is open. The same IAS officer can one day become a politician. Okay. The same politician can one day, with the help of some corruption, can become corporate. Okay. So you will see that gradually that son of auto rickshaw driver can also become a big name. You know the story of Dhiru Bhai Ambani, something like that. Now, Dhiru Bhai Ambani was not son of auto rickshaw driver, but very much in that position only. And then today we have the son of Mukesh Ambani, daughter of Mukesh Ambani, you know, who are the chief executive position holders of one of the topmost company in the world, Reliance. This shows that class as a system is open. You can start with a small scale industry and gradually you can move up the ladder with the help of your innovations, creativity, skill, talent, or hard work. Okay, so that means when you as a sociologist understand strata in society based on class as open, that is just a model that you have made for your convenience. We have categorized society into models. One model based on class, which is open. And then we also have a model based on caste. That is also one strata that you can form with the help of caste. You know, you have, for example, Shudra. Okay, Shudra. And to be more specific and more academically correct, let me write Varna. अरे ये मैंने वो गाड़ी की स्पेलिंग लिख दी वर्ना की. Shudra. Then we have Vash. Then we have Kshatriya. Then we have Brahmins. Now this is based on Varna. Okay. And now the question would now start becoming more and more difficult. Okay. There are some people who are not even part of this fourfold Varna system. They are outcast and they are also categorized as Pancham Varna. पांचवा वर्ण, पंचम वर्ण. Who are the people of पंचम वर्ण? मलेच्छास. मलेच्छा का मीनिंग क्या होता है? हैव यू रेड एंशिएंट हिस्ट्री? तो पढ़ा होगा थोड़ा बहुत. मलेच्छास, मलेच्छास, चांडाल्स. Who is मलेच्छा? मलेच्छास. Malechas are foreigners. Foreigners. Okay, foreigners. That means anyone who is outside of us, who do not belong to this soil. Okay. And this is a time when there was nothing like India as a territory, as a state. Okay. So it was a conceptualization of civilization that whosoever do not belong to this soil, coming from outside, alien or a foreigner, is Malecha and not part of Varna system. See, just think like this now. Is American part of Varna system? No, America is separate class, separate people. Similarly, there was a point of time when few set of people were recognized as not part of Varna system outside of them. And in that, we had Malechas, we had Chandals, and even tribals. Okay, इससे हमें एक चीज पता चलती है that tribals were never part of Hindu system. समझे कि नहीं समझे? Tribes were never part of Hindu system. ये tribes बाहर के लोग हैं. ठीक है. Now the next question that I'm going to ask you, is Varna system open or closed? ये बताओ. वर्ण सिस्टम, कुछ लोग ओपन बोल रहे हैं, कुछ लोग क्लोज बोल रहे हैं. इससे पता चलता है हमें कि रियलिटी इज नॉट सो ऑब्जेक्टिव. ठीक है, क्लास में सबने ओपन बोल दिया था. अब समझ रहे रियलिटी ऑब्जेक्टिव क्यों नहीं है? वर्ण सिस्टम इनिशियली वाज ओपन. Initially, Varna system was open. That means, Gandhi has said one statement. Gandhi ने एक बात बोली है. Gandhi said, all of us are born Shudras. हम सब शूद्र ही पैदा होते हैं. All of us are born Shudras. This is what Gandhi said. ये उसने क्यों बोला, ये आपको पता चलेगा थोड़े टाइम बाद. ठीक है. But when he says that all of us are born Shudras, then after this he also says that, but with our individual skills, talent, hard work, we attain Vaishya status, Kshatriya status, Brahmin status. When Gandhi speaks like this, somehow it gives me an impression that to Gandhi, Varna is open system. And when we read the text or ancient literature during the times of Rig Veda, again it gives us an impression that Varna system was open since time immemorial. शुरू से ही open रहा है. And there is a philosophy in Hinduism. In Hinduism there is a philosophy called as त्रिगुण. त्रिगुण, तुम्हारे दोस्त होंगे त्रिगुण नाम के. ठीक है, त्रिगुण, हिंदू फिलॉसफी. Trigun. In Trigun, the word gun, that is quality or guna, quality is important. How many qualities? 3 qualities. That is why Triguna. There are 3 qualities. 3 qualities of a man or a woman, women included. Okay. 3 qualities of a man. And who is going to become Shudra? Who is going to become Vaishya or Brahmin or Kshatriya depends on the degree of those 3 qualities that man inherits or man accumulates in his lifetime. Okay. So, what are those 3 qualities? There are 3 types of different qualities that our Varna system talks about. There is one quality like Rajasvi. Rajasvi. That means any man who has king-like qualities, who is brave. The very idea of Pareto's fox is synonymous or very much in correspondence with that guna, Rajasva. Then we have Sattvic qualities. Sattvic are those people who are the pathetic ones, जो दारू पीते हैं सारा टाइम, ठीक है, जिनको जुए की आदत है, जिनको गाली गलौज की आदत है, ठीक है, जो पढ़ाई नहीं करते, जो कुछ नहीं करते, वो जो जिनके पास अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं, जो भी है, मतलब बेसिकली एनीवन हु इज नॉट प्योर, anyone who cannot be accepted, anyone who is not deserving, anyone who is not hardworking, anyone who is not talented, skilled or educated, okay, and mad, that is sattvic. That means that man has lot of sattvic quality. In the language of Sigmund Freud, that man is highly driven by id. Or in the language of Mead, that is I manifested like anything. क्या लिखा है? सॉरी, हाँ ठीक है, तामसिक, वो तामसिक है, सत्विक मैंने बोल दिया, उल्टा बोल दिया, वो तामसिक है. Tamasic is that person which I was talking about, not Sattvic. Sattvic is someone who is wise, intelligent. Okay, like fox of Pareto. So these are 3 different kind of qualities that we have in Hindu philosophy. And every man is either having lot of Sattvic qualities, less of Tamasic, something like that. So different degrees of proportion of those good or qualities would determine the varna that you would hold. So that way, Brahmins, if Brahmins are at the topmost structure of the varna system, that means they have all the bestest of the qualities and none of the worst qualities that one could think of. Okay, so Brahmin does not have tamasic qualities. Brahmin is all about Sattvic and Rajasvic. And Shudra has no Sattvic or Rajasvic, only Tamasic. And therefore, since the people who are born with these kind of qualities are going to determine the Varna system, that way Varna system is closed. But then there is also one philosophy which tells us that if you are talented, if you are meritorious, and if you attain those greater heights in society, then from Tamasic you may become Sattvic. Therefore, Varna can be changed. Varna is therefore open. Okay, remember this, इसको हमेशा याद रखना, Varna is open philosophically. Okay, Now the question is, what is caste? We know that Brahmin is Varna. Okay. Brahmin is Varna. Then what is caste? Caste क्या होता है फिर? त्रिवेदी, चतुर्वेदी, पांडे, शर्मा, मिश्रा, ये caste है. Okay, these are Brahmins. So what does Varna do to the caste? Varna unites seemingly different castes. So like for example, if I am Mishra and if I go to Karnataka, and in Karnataka nobody knows what is Mishra, but there is, in Karnataka we have Brahmins also, Lingayat Brahmins. Okay, so I am Mishra and he is Lingayat, and he doesn't know what is Mishra, I do not know what is Lingayat. I will tell him I am Brahmin, he or he will recognize me. So what is Varna doing? Varna is creating solidarity, and caste is dividing, Varna is uniting. Now the question is caste open or closed? These are castes, caste 1, caste 2, caste 3, caste 4. Within Kshatriya again we have castes. Within Vaishya again we have castes. Okay, like for example in Vaishya you have Ansal, Bansal, Mittal, Agarwal, Baniya. These are Vaishyas. Okay, in Kshatriyas again you have different castes. Again in Shudra you have multiple castes. So now tell me, is caste open or closed? Yes, caste is completely closed. Caste is completely closed. Okay. But remember, this is what we understand. These are what I just told you was nothing but models. These are the models that we are going to use. Therefore, what I just told you is nothing, is not reality. What is this? This is ideal type of reality. These are the models that I am going to use, and then you will understand how reality is different from these models. अब समझे कि नहीं समझे ideal type? ठीक है. चलो अब करते हैं. Let us start with some theoretical work. In our syllabus, the first part is sociological theories. Of stratification. Okay, in sociological theories, we have three different theories: structural functional, Marxist, and Weberian. बस ये हमारे सिलेबस में है तीन. बहुत सिंपल है, बहुत छोटा है, कुछ भी नहीं है. स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन कल ही खत्म हो जाएगा आपका. ठीक है. So let us begin with structural functional. We know structural functionalism as a paradigm was largely discussed by, in academic terms, Talcott Parsons. And Talcott Parsons had many students who turned out to be great sociologists later on. One of the students, or two of the students of Talcott Parsons were Davis and Moore. These are also American. Davis and Moore. Okay. And then there is one more man, Melvin Tumin. We will read these under structural functionalist. Okay. In Marxist, we will read mainly Karl Marx. Karl Marx and some other Marxists as well. And Marxists. Okay. Which Marxist? Many. Like Ralph Dahrendorf. Okay. Also, Eric Olin Wright. अब क्योंकि तुम ये सब पढ़ चुके हो, ठीक है, तो इसलिए मेरा काम आसान रहेगा. तो मैंने इसलिए सब मार्क्स के अंदर ही डाल दिए थे ताकि मेरे को बार बार एक्सप्लेन ना करना पड़े. Weberian. Under Weberian, we will of course we will read Max Weber, and we will also read some Weberians, okay, like Andre Bete. But I will prefer to speak about Andre Bete in paper 2. But this is a model that you should have in your mind. Okay. Let us begin with first Talcott Parsons. Talcott Parsons is that person who believes, since he is American and America is a land of opportunity, premised on democracy, giving everyone equality. So therefore in America, if you are rich, you are purely rich based on your talent and individual merit. Okay, because America is open society, giving everyone equal opportunity. Democracy है world का oldest. Okay. इसलिए अमेरिका लैंड ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटीज है. यहाँ पे आओ, कैसीनो खेलो, बिलियनियर बन जाओ और घर जाओ, जो करना है करो यहाँ. सो इसीलिए अमेरिका, इन अमेरिका, यू नो, देयर इज दिस बिलीफ everyone can come here, fulfill his dreams. And Talcott Parsons was of the similar opinion, and he believed that in America, stratas are based on class position. Stratas are based on class position, which is a function of individual skill and merit. Right? Anybody can become whatever he or she wants to become. And everybody is given skill and talent. And everyone is given chance to become rich with the help of the schooling. The schooling system is their education. And education is part of cultural system. So cultural system, if you remember AGIL, cultural system is a system that transmits values to the society. And the value that our society is highly open, democratic, equality of opportunity, all those. These are the values that everybody share. And when 100 people are taught the same thing, and those 100 people go out and few become wealthy and some other could not, then those people who could not become wealthy, they will not complain. They will simply accept it as their fate. They would simply understand it like this, that those people were, highly talented, that is why they could become billionaire. शायद हमने ही मेहनत नहीं करी इसलिए हम नहीं बिलियनियर बन पाए. Okay. And this system they could easily buy because they have been taught in schools. स्कूल में यही सिखाया जाता है. From day one आपका टेस्ट लिया जाता है. आपके मार्क्स आए तो यानी आप इंटेलिजेंट हो, नहीं आए तो यानी आप इंटेलिजेंट नहीं हो. ठीक है. और जब मार्क्स नहीं आते तो आप कंप्लेंट टीचर को नहीं करते, आप उल्टा टीचर से पूछते हो, सर कैसे इंप्रूव करें, मैम कैसे इंप्रूव करें. यानी आप मान लेते हो कि आपको कुछ नहीं आता. ठीक है. तो फिर क्या करते हैं हम, फिर वो नोट्स बनाते हैं, प्लान करते हैं, वैसे 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 हम मान लेते हैं क्योंकि सिस्टम मेरिटोक्रेटिक है तो हमारे में ही फॉल्ट होगा, वो सिस्टम तो सही चल रहा है. ठीक है. तो एंड इसीलिए कैलकट पार्सन्स also believed that school is a focal agency between family and society. ये बोला था कि नहीं? ठीक है, ये बोला था. Okay, what next? Now you have studied in school, you have got certain values in you now. Okay, now you go out of the school after class 12th, and then you start preparing for some position, maybe bureaucracy, maybe corporate sector, something like that. Okay, maybe for management you are giving some exam. So whatever exam you are going to appear for, I know, and the whole world knows, okay, that you are preparing for that exam because you believe that position is important and I want to get that position. Okay, and therefore every aspirant who is preparing for any exam, he considers that position as important one. That is why he is preparing like anything for that position, right? And therefore Talcott Parson also believes that in society some positions are more important than others, right? Every position is not equal. Some are more important than others. Okay, the position of prime minister, chief minister, chief engineer, IAS officer, IPS officer, or a lawyer, that too a very great one. Okay, there are some positions in society which are highly important one. I mean, those positions have to be there. Attorney General has to be there, Prime Minister has to be there, Chief Minister has to be there, Chief Secretary has to be there, Cabinet Secretary has to be there. These are some of the most important positions. And every society has such kind of positions, inevitably. Every society. And when you have such important positions, you would, as society, if you consider society as an organ, okay, which Talcott Parson believed it is an organ, okay, and if society is an organ, and in organ some positions are important, obviously society would want to attract most meritorious, most hardworking people to fill those positions. In society, some positions are based on, some positions are important than others. Some positions are important than others. and those positions would be filled by those positions. Okay, consider these positions as the most important and we are here. Those positions would be filled by most meritorious amongst us. Okay, right? The most meritorious and talented would occupy those positions. And the people who could not occupy those positions in the whole competition, they would not complain because they know system runs on merit. So the fuel of system is merit. And in this meritocratic environment, everybody is fighting for certain positions. Some people would get those positions, many others would not. Those many others would not complain. They would attempt one more time next year. Again, some others would get selected, some and many others would not. Again, they would not complain because system is running on a fuel called as merit. Okay, so if you are not able to make it through, you find fault in yourself, not in the system per se. Okay, and why? So that means all of us have accepted certain values as common sense. That it is common, yes, it is common sense. We have accepted this thing as common sense. So we have accepted the notion of merit as common sense, right? And this is nothing but value consensus. The general shared values form value consensus. Generally shared norms form value consensus. Therefore, is there any chance of conflict in society? कोई चांस ही नहीं है. कैसे conflict होएगा? सब वैल्यू सब सिस्टम पे चल रहा है, मेरिट पे चल रहा है, इक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी सबका सबको हमने वो चांस दिया है. कुछ बन जाएंगे, कुछ नहीं बनेंगे, और जो नहीं बनेंगे वो चुप रहेंगे. ठीक है, वो दोबारा से एग्जाम देंगे या फिर कुछ और करेंगे. बट वो लड़ाई झगड़ा, प्रोटेस्ट या फिर स्टेट के अगेंस्ट कुछ मार्च ऐसा नहीं निकालने वाले. ठीक है, क्योंकि सब मानते हैं कि हाँ यार मेरिटोक्रेटिक था, अपॉर्चुनिटी सबको दी. ठीक है, वो तो हम नहीं कर पाए. ठीक है. This is what Talcott Parson believed. And Talcott Parson, finally, he said one statement. That stratification, school is an institution that governs effective role allocation. School is an institution that governs effective role allocation, or that does effective role allocation. Instead of governs, you can write does also. ताकि simple लगे. What is the meaning of effective role allocation? In the school itself, we learn this, that whosoever would get this much marks would be allocated the position of monitor or housemaster or floor manager or floor master, something like this, or captain of this team, something like that. So role allocation is done within the school itself. You get certain score, you show your talent, and then you become leader. Okay. And then the same thing is reproduced in the wider society. And therefore, what is happening in wider society? That is nothing but effective role allocation extrapolated. Understood? Effective role allocation extrapolated to the wider spectrum. Okay, this is what is happening in society. So school therefore is nothing but mini society. Mini society. Okay. Now, what happened? One day, Davis and Moore studied Talcott Parson. Since they were a student only, so they appreciated Talcott Parson a lot. And one day they came up with their theory. Basically, they believed that when you talk about stratification, it is impossible to not begin with Talcott Parson, because it is Talcott Parson's theory which is purely based on the notion of meritocracy, which has become part of value consensus. All of us share this, and that is what Talcott Parson also called as generalized values. So we have those values have become generalized. We have accepted those things as common sense. Okay. So finally, Davis and Moore tried to refine this theory more appropriately, so as to give exclusive theory on stratification that would be later on regarded as functional theory of stratification. Okay, so they exclusively gave a theory on stratification. Talcott Parson never gave exclusive theory on stratification, but in his writing lies the principles of strata as to why we have some people at the top position, some people not at the top. The principles lies in the writing of Talcott Parsons, according to Davis and Moore. And therefore, they are trying to expand Talcott Parsonian work. And therefore, they talked about their theory, which is regarded as Davis and Moore's structural functional analysis. Davis and Moore's structural functional analysis. Now let us try to understand what is structural functional analysis of Davis Moore. चीज वही रहेगी जो टैलकट पार्सन ने बोली है, थोड़े से चेंजेस है उसमें बस. See, in every society, Davis Moore believed, yes, there are some positions which are more important than others, right? And then Talcott Parson also talked about effective role allocation. Some people would be. कोक नहीं है, ये डाइट कोक है, ये अलग होती है. So effective role allocation is going to tell us who will be occupying those positions. Okay. But the question is how to attract individuals to occupy those positions, which are important. How to allocate roles, or how effective role allocation takes place. Write it like this: how effective role allocation takes place. Okay, so what is the main question? The main question is, there is one position called as IAS officer in India, Indian society. Okay, IAS officer, very important position. Now the question is, society as an organ wants to ensure that IAS position is occupied by most talented and hardworking and meritorious individuals. What shall society do so that only the bestest of the people come in to appear for the exam and get selected? Therefore, society will do something. Society will keep certain allowances, perks along with this position. ये देखो हमने ये सब रखा है, आजो आजो आजो, जैसे चूहे के लिए डालते हैं चीज, ठीक है, वैसे ही हाईएस्ट पोजीशन के अराउंड डाल देंगे बंगलो हमने दे दिया तुमको, हम लाल बत्ती तुम्हें देंगे, हम तुम्हें 10 नौकर देंगे, 3 टेलीफोन देंगे, 5 सिम देंगे, ठीक है, बड़ा सा लॉन देंगे, झूला देंगे, उसके अंदर 2 कुत्ते भी मिल जाएंगे, ठीक है, हम ये सब देंगे तुम्हें। फिर हम देखते हैं, ये यार ये तो काफी कुछ दे रहे हैं, फिर तो पढ़ लेते हैं चलो। अब ये किया है सोसाइटी ने, अपने आप किया है। इंपॉर्टेंट पोजीशंस नीड टू बी फिल्ड, एंड those important positions need to be filled by most meritorious and hardworking people. How to attract hardworking people? By establishing certain perks and allowances or rewards. Okay, rewards to attract hardworking people and meritorious people. Those positions are attributed certain rewards. Rewards, okay, perks, allowances, कुछ भी हो सकता है, वो किसी भी फॉर्म का पर्क हो सकता है, किसी भी फॉर्म का अलाउंस हो सकता है. एज एन आईएएस ऑफिसर I don't need to be worried about my family, my personal health, because everything will be insured by the government. Okay, so I don't need to worry about house, basic minimum basic needs जिसे कहते हैं, food, house, and even after retirement I would be getting pension. Okay, or I may even get some posts. Okay, some very plum posts. Okay, as an IAS or as an IPS officer. I may even get post just 3 days before when I was about to get retired. उससे भी मेरे को उस टाइम भी पोस्ट मिल सकती है और मेरा रिटायरमेंट का एज भी एक्सटेंड हो सकता है. ठीक है, एंड मोर देन दैट वी वुड ऑल्सो गेट सो मेनी कॉन्टैक्ट्स इन ब्यूरोक्रेसी. ठीक है, स्टेटस मिलेगा, पावर होगी, सब होएगा. So these are the rewards to attract the hard working and meritorious people. Now these meritorious people will appear in exam. Okay, all the people will appear in exam. The best one, the most effective ones after all the stages would be selected as the bureaucrats. Okay, this is how society has filled those important positions. Okay, so the meritorious ones will be selected through stages in an objective and meritocratic ground. On objective and meritocratic grounds. Okay. This is what Davis and Moore explains. That's it. Khatam. Okay. And when these positions are occupied by meritorious people, then society would be running efficiently, right? That's how society runs efficiently. And system is maintained. खत्म बात. सिस्टम मेंटेन रहा. कंपटीशन है, बट सिस्टम तब भी रहेगा क्योंकि कंपटीशन इज बेस्ड ऑन मेरिट. So that means we have conflict over limited resources. Of course, by 100 people are going to become IS. Very limited resource. Lakhs are appearing, but these lakhs are in competition with each other. जान भी ले सकते हैं दूसरे की, मार भी सकते हैं दूसरे को. ठीक है. मेंस में अपेयर होते टाइम किसी को कुछ पिला भी सकते हैं. जो लग रहा है कि इसके मार्क्स आ सकते हैं उसको कुछ दे भी सकते हैं ताकि वो इंटरव्यू तक ना जा पाए. लेकिन हम ये सब कुछ नहीं कर रहे. अपने आप छटते जा रहे हैं. लास्ट में अपने आप ही सिलेक्ट हो रहे हैं. ठीक है. जो टैलेंटेड है वो अपने आप सिलेक्ट हो ही जाएगा. लेकिन कोई मार धाड़ नहीं हो रही है कॉन्फ्लिक्ट के बीच. कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं हो रहा है ऐसा. कंपटीशन है कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की फॉर्म में, बट दैट कंपटीशन इज बेस्ड ऑन मेरिट. सो इवन इफ यू आर नॉट सिलेक्टेड यू विल बी एक्सेप्टिंग योर डिफीट, दैट टू ऑन मेरिट. एंड यूपीएससी विल टेल यू, will show you your mark sheet also. This is why you could not make it. Otherwise, you could have. So system tries to maintain merit all throughout its period. Okay, and therefore system is maintained and conflict is neutralized. There is no scope for conflict. Social system maintained, moving equilibrium. IS आते जाएंगे जाते जाएंगे, आते जाएंगे जाते जाएंगे. इसी तरह यूनिवर्सिटी में प्रोफेसर आते जाएंगे जाते जाएंगे, आते जाएंगे जाते जाएंगे. उसी तरह प्राइम मिनिस्टर आते रहेंगे जाते रहेंगे, आते रहेंगे जाते रहेंगे. एवरीथिंग विल बी बेस्ड ऑन मेरिट. कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का कहीं स्कोप रहेगा? कोई स्कोप ही नहीं रहेगा. ठीक है. हाँ, इतनी सीधी बात है. फंक्शनलिज्म की बात ऐसी ही होती है. ठीक है. सिस्टम मेंटेन रहेगा. ठीक है. अब सवाल ये उठता है कि क्या इतना आसान है सब कुछ जिंदगी में? There is one man, Melvin Tillman. अभी तक तुमको भी ना सब कुछ एकदम वैसा लगा होगा कि हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सही है, सही है, सही है, सही है, बिल्कुल. See, when I taught you this functionalism, generally what happens when you would teach this theory to anyone, na, he will accept it right away. Okay. And that is why it is also called as ruling class ideology. We accept ruling class ideology very quickly because that is what we have been socialized into. Okay, this is what we have been trained in. So it becomes very easy for us to accept it as common sense, cultural hegemony. But Marxists would call us. Okay, so to Marxists, this is not what stratification does. Okay, this is something else which stratification does. But anyhow, let me first talk about Melvin Tumin. He's also a very important scholar. Melvin Tumin is asking a very basic question. Very basic question. How do you decide what is important position? क्या बात है? कितना बेसिक सवाल है. How do you decide what is important position? You tell me. What do you guys think? How is positions which are important are decided? On what basis? Power basis, based upon the power that they are. Creativity of multiple role status function to society. Perks तो नहीं, perks नहीं आंसर है. perks देखो, let me ask you a very basic question. If I talk about two people, one is Bollywood actor, okay, that is film lines. Second is administrative line, bureaucracy, politico-administrative bureaucracy. Which of these are important positions? Tell me. अरे आसान इतना है क्या? ये तुमने बोल दिया, ये इतना आसान है क्या? इतना आसान नहीं है. अभी अनिल कपूर से मैं पूछूंगा कौन इंपॉर्टेंट है, वो बोलेगा ये इंपॉर्टेंट है, बॉलीवुड. बात यह है कि इंपॉर्टेंस की ऑब्जेक्टिविटी आ कहां से रही है? ऑब्जेक्टिवली कैसे आप बोल सकते हो कि ये इंपॉर्टेंट पोजीशन है? दिस इज वेरी सब्जेक्टिव थिंग. As I told you, in society there is nothing objective reality. We consider IAS as important because we share these values. We accept these values as common sense that yes, bureaucracy is important. So it is our shared agreement with each other that makes us accept that it is important. Okay. Shared agreement changes, always changes from time to time. Like 6 years back, 10 years back, you may not have thought that IAS is important. At that point of time, you might have thought that to become Batman or Superman is important position. Okay. Or to become Shaktiman is important. I mean, these are based purely on shared values. What kind of values you share at what time. There is nothing objective in this. Okay. Some people after becoming IAS, they think IAS is not important. They switch to something else, which they find more important than IAS. So what is important? How can you say? There is objective reality in this. And also, if IAS is more important than Bollywood actor, then please tell me why IAS is paid 60,000 per month and Bollywood actor 1 crore. क्या बात है? क्या ही बात है? भाई बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पोजीशन है तो 60,000 क्यों है? नहीं नहीं, ये मत बोलो पैसे नहीं है गवर्नमेंट में. पैसा बहुत है गवर्नमेंट में. ठीक है. Basically, what I am trying to do is to break the idea of importance that you have in your mind. Okay, मैं उसको तोड़ रहा हूं और उसको थोड़ा क्लोज लेके आ रहा हूं वहां तक जहां तक मेल्विन ट्यूमेन गया है, ठीक है। नाउ what Melvin Tubin is trying to tell us is that what is the criteria of considering few positions as important than others, and if those are important, why there is discrepancy. Like for example, in those positions you would not be getting that much of amount or wealth. You may get status, but you may not get wealth. And this is what we called as, if you remember, Gerard Lensky, he called it status inconsistency. You may be very powerful, very high in status, but you may not be so wealthy. Then there are some other people who are very wealthy, but they do not have status or power. तो आप कैसे बोलोगे इंपॉर्टेंट क्या है, कौन सी पोजीशन इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्राइटेरिया क्या होगा? दिस इज द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन दैट ही हैज रेज्ड. बड़ा ही सही क्वेश्चन उसने पूछा. ओके, first question that he raised. Second, is there any objectivity? In regarding a position as important? Melvin Tubin is talking about, different kind of contradictions that you find in your everyday life. For so long time, people like, doctors. Doctor is very important position. But the kind of importance these people realized in these 2 years, we call them medical warriors for the first time. पहली बार हमें डॉक्टर्स की इंपॉर्टेंस पता चली जिंदगी में, ठीक है, पहली बार. इंपॉर्टेंट तो वो भी हैं, क्योंकि जान तो वही बचा रहे हैं. चाहे मोदी हो, चाहे अमित शाह हो, आएंगे तो उन्हीं के पास, ठीक है, क्योंकि जान वो बचा रहे हैं. And we regarded those positions as the most important in these 2 years. That is why we celebrated them, medical warriors. And government also decided to raise emoluments and allowances of ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, auxiliary nurse midwives. सबकी पर्क्स बढ़ा दिए, अलाउंसेस, ताकि अच्छे अच्छे लोग आए, आशा वर्कर बने हमारे साथ, वॉलंटरी एसोसिएशंस में आए हमारे साथ, जो नेशनल हेल्थ मिशन है उसमें कंट्रीब्यूट करें. बढ़ा दिए पर्स, अलाउंसेस बढ़ा दिए सबके. कैसे डिफाइन करोगे ऑब्जेक्टिविटी, ठीक है. नाउ that also shows that what is important and what is not important is highly spatial and temporal. Spatial and temporal. Spatial means varies from one space to another space. Okay, varies from one space to another space. Temporal means varies from one time to another time. Time to time vary करता है. And then space to space, location to location, place to place vary करता है. There are maybe some positions in India and in Indian society which are important in India but not so important outside of India, in some other place. There may be some positions outside of India which may be important there but not so important here in India. Okay, and that is why you would see the emoluments of those positions would vary within India and outside of India. Outside of India, those people are getting so much of money, so much of power or status. In India, they are not. And within India, there are some which are getting, but outside they are not. Okay. So you would find these kind of differences always. This is what Melvin Tumin is arguing. And therefore, also one more thing, other than these three factors, the most factor important which he also talks about is fourth important factor. He is saying that if society is purely based on merit, and if some positions are important which are readily available for every individual to grab, then why do I find people only from certain social background coming in to occupy those positions more than people coming from other backgrounds? क्या बात है भाई? Why these so-called important positions are occupied by people from specific background? People from specific background, specific social background. हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, CW मिल्स, ठीक है, जैसे CW मिल्स बोलता है पावर एलीट. Why if becoming corporate in America or a military chief or president or any big position in American federal government is important, then why people only from few specific kind of background are coming in and occupying those positions? Why not others? Most of these people are white, upper class, coming from Ivy League universities, Protestants or Jews, either Protestant or Jews. Okay. And native as well, in the sense born in America, not outside of those. Okay. So there is a specific set of people who are holding those opportunities. Specific set of people. Similarly, in India, you would see specific set of people are holding certain opportunities. Although system runs on merit, but you would still find many people from those backgrounds absent in those positions. You talk about higher education, you talk about bureaucracy, you talk about parliament, you talk about panchayat, you talk about defense, you talk about any field like engineering field, science field, medicine field. You would everywhere you would see people coming from specific social background holding those positions. Okay, if system runs on merit, then why is it so? This is what he is saying. Okay. Then Pareto, if you remember, he would tell us, bhai, there are some elites. Some people are born elites. Okay, some people are born elites. And when he is talking about elites now, when Pareto talks about elite, he is focusing not on social location of the elite. He is focusing on psychological features or traits of elite. But C. Wright Mills is talking about the social background. Which one of them is right? दोनों में सही कौन है? दोनों. कोई गलत नहीं, कोई एक सही नहीं. This is what Melvin Tumin has asked. Write down. Melvin Tumin argued that the Davis and Moore's Davis and Moore's structural functional analysis of stratification. Davis and Moore's structural functional analysis of stratification. Is purely based on the idea of meritocracy. Is purely based on the idea of meritocracy. And tries to project it tries to project class position as open. Class position as open. Full stop. But Davis and Moore fails to explain. Davis and Moore fails to explain why those positions are occupied by people from specific social background. Okay. Therefore, Davis and Moore did not take into consideration. Therefore, Davis and Moore did not take into consideration social location of individuals. Social location of individuals. In bracket, race, caste, gender, sexuality. Race, caste, class, gender, sexuality, ethnicity. Okay, bracket close. So Davis Moore did not take into consideration how the social location of individuals influence his position in the strata. His or her position in the strata. Okay. So now two theories are over. ऐसी मजाक मजाक में. Now I'll ask you one question. In social media, I see every day people who have not been meritorious, who are not so educated, who are not so skilled. They have so many followers. वही जो फैक्ट है सो है. So many followers, so many पैसा, wealth भी है उनके पास, and they become so influential that they can also influence politics. अब बताओ क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है क्या नहीं. कितने बड़े इन्फ्लुएंसर बन चुके हैं वो कि वो किसी सेलिब्रिटी को ऊपर नीचे कर सकते हैं टिकटॉक बनाकर और पॉलिटिक्स बदल सकते हैं देश की फेक न्यूज चलाकर, क्योंकि उनके पास फॉलोअर्स हैं. फॉलोअर्स तो सबके पास नहीं होते. इंपॉर्टेंट पोजीशन क्या होती है बताओ. ठीक है. सो कैन Davis and Moore Explain me. Social media. How people have occupied some positions, and these are those positions which are not officially recognized as important positions in society, and without even having such recognition of important position, those are the positions that are giving you today wealth, status and power. And Davis and Moore told me there are some important positions in society, only few, and only meritorious individual, hard-working individual would occupy those positions. And once they have occupied those, and to attract those individuals to occupy those positions, we have some rewards also in those positions. But they are not able to explain me then why in social media, without being recognized as important position, they have so much of wealth, power, status. Today, everything is happening on social media. Politics is decided on social media by those people who are not so educated, meritorious in the language of Davis, Moore and Talcott Parson. स्कूल की पढ़ाई भी ड्रॉप आउट कर चुके हैं, स्कूल वो गए भी नहीं थे स्कूल वो, और कुछ जो गए थे 10वीं के बाद वो बाहर निकल गए. और टैलकट पार्सन ने मुझे बोला कि स्कूल फोकल एजेंसी है, ठीक है, ये हमें एक वैल्यू कंसेंसस एस्टेब्लिश करके देता है कि इतना करोगे तो आपको वो मिलेगा, बट मैं तो साफ देख रहा हूं जिसने उतना भी नहीं किया उसको भी उतना सब मिल गया. तो सोसाइटी उतनी रोजी रोजी और ब्यूटीफुल नहीं है जितनी स्ट्रक्चर फंक्शनलिस्ट को लगती है. नाउ सोशल मीडिया इज द न्यू फोकल एजेंसी सर. अब वो तो हम बाद में बात करेंगे इसके ऊपर, अभी नहीं, ठीक है. अभी तो बहुत जनरलाइजेशन हो जाएगी अगर अभी हमने ये बोला कुछ. थोड़ा इसके ऊपर हमें और वर्क करना पड़ेगा आगे जाके, तब हम बोलेंगे ऐसे आर्ग्यूमेंट्स, ठीक है. सो नाउ आई होप यू अंडरस्टूड. एंड मेल्विन ट्यूमेन क्लियरली is highly important when you see such kind of contradictions in society. Someone whose position is not important having so much of wealth, money. Melvin Tillman will help you. Okay. How he will help? तुम्हें पढ़ के लगेगा कि चलो ठीक है मैं अकेला नहीं हूं, ऐसे और भी हैं, तभी तो मेल्विन ट्यूमेन ने बोली ऐसी थ्योरी, ठीक है. फिर आता है मार्क्स. इसने तो सारी काया ही पलट कर दी है सर्टिफिकेशन की. ये आदमी रुकता नहीं है. But I would like to talk about him tomorrow only. अभी आज थोड़ा, आज के लिए काफी है. If you have any question, you can ask me. Also remember one more thing. Remember one more thing. When you read certification, stratification is something which nobody planned for. Stratification is something nobody planned for. It exists in every society. In every society you see people divided. Some important, some not so important, some wealthy, some not so wealthy, some having high status, some having not so high status, some very powerful, some not so powerful. So stratification is inevitable in every society. You see stratas, layers of people. Okay. So is stratification intentionally done by a few people, or it is coming out organically from society? You tell me. Organically coming out from society, right? Therefore, stratification is consciously planned or unconsciously happened. Unconsciously happened. Therefore, stratification is nothing but unconscious device. Stratification is अनकॉन्शियस डिवाइस, इसको याद रखना बस। अकॉर्डिंग टू डेविस एंड मूर, certification is an unconscious device. ओके चलो अब देखते हैं कोई डाउट है कि नहीं। नहीं अब तो आज तो कोई डाउट नहीं होना चाहिए क्योंकि मैंने आराम से ही पढ़ाया है और कोई जल्दबाजी में नहीं बोला है, धीरे धीरे बोला है। नहीं है, ठीक है, देन आई विल सी यू टुमारो। सर नेक्स्ट टेस्ट अभी हम आपको इन्फॉर्म कर देंगे, एक बार इसका रिजल्ट आने तो पहले, इसका हम जल्दी निकाल रहे हैं रिजल्ट, मैक्सिमम 3-4 डेज मोर, ठीक है, फिर हम आपको बताते हैं टेस्ट अगला।